everybody. I'm here with a new video, no sewing video because I have no fabric yet, but I do need distraction, so I have another plan for today. This idea for this video came to me when I was scrolling through my Facebook, which I don't do that often, and I came across a lot of tiny house things. It's because I basically entered every tiny house Facebook group there was when I was thinking about living in a tiny house. Most of them just passed by me, but there was this one comment, I don't believe it was an actual post, it was a comment, which went something like, I only see extremely positive information about living in a tiny house and I want to fill a picture. Does anyone know a place I can find some more negative sides? I don't think it was exactly like that, but that's kind of what I remember. Like the general idea is that. And that got me thinking because, well, I live in a tiny house. I've done so now for almost 1.5 years. So I could give some insights on the less wonderful things about living in a tiny house. So that's what I'm going to do today. And let's start with the obvious. It's tiny. I mostly notice this when I am in a regular size house and I'm just overwhelmed with how much space I have to twirl around and slide across the rooms and just basic stuff. Yeah, sometimes the walls do close in on yourself, especially when you're a homebody like me, although it's pretty easy to clean up because there's not much space. And that is nice, I suppose, because I hate cleaning. And because it's very tiny, it gets pretty messy pretty quickly. Especially if you are a messy person like me, or you're not a minimalist like me, and you have basically too much stuff for a tiny house. Anyway, it basically transforms your house in a game of the floor is lava, which is sometimes pretty annoying, but also kind of fun. And it's also one of the reasons I am always covered in bruises, because I'm also clumsy, and it's not very handy when you're clumsy, when you have just stuff scattered around the floor where you can trip over. But yeah, tiny house basically amplifies that. And next up, the lack of privacy. Okay, this is different case by case. It depends on where your house stands, how your house is positioned, and what the community guidelines are. Because I know that some tiny house villages only allow visitors on open days, but where I live, it's basically open for people to wander through every single day. So if the weather is a little bit good, you will find many touristy people here, which brings some awkward staring and people taking pictures of your house and waving uncomfortably. Yeah, it's not really great. Also, my house stands with the side of where the most of the glass is towards the world. So basically I'm always visible for everybody to see, which makes me become very self-aware with everything I do. And I notice this most when I'm going back to my parents and I suddenly realize what privacy actually is. Also, the walls are pretty thin. Well, not thin, but they're less big as normal houses. Like when you have a stone house, less sound from the outside comes in, and well, at least that's my experience, because I can hear everybody outside. So please don't. Well, you can tell secrets, I won't tell, but if you don't want me to know, then don't talk about it in front of my house. Also makes me wonder if people can hear me too. I have not yet asked any neighbours if they ever overheard a conversation I had with myself. I hope they haven't, but there is a possibility. And that is just in winter time, because when it's spring or summer and I'm more outside, and my garden is also not very privacy driven. I don't have any privacy. You can see me everywhere. It's sometimes very frustrating. I will tackle that this summer because I want to be more outside. But anyway, what I was trying to say is when you're outside, when it's summer and people are walking by, is that sometimes you stumble into conversations. And there's this one occasion when I just basically had a woman tell her complete life story that I felt I was not supposed to hear, but I was hearing it anyway. That was very awkward. Never thought I would say that I have more privacy living at my parents' house than I do living on my own. But here we are. Does mean I sometimes need to recharge there, because it kind of drains my energy a little bit. Okay, and now we're talking about social things anyway. Let's talk something that really is depending on how you look at it, because, well, basically what I gather and what I experience here is that living like this comes with a very social community, and even in this pandemic it's very social, and there's, you know, a lot of talking, a lot of watching out for each other, and when this all ends there probably would be a lot of parties, a lot of spontaneous campfires, barbecues, you know, the whole shebang. There's a lot of social activities when you live like this. It's not that you have to join in, but just be aware of it. If you never want to talk to people, then this is not the way to live. Unless you have a place of your own, of course, then it doesn't count. But for me, the social community is far beyond my comfort zone. Yet exactly what I needed. I came with, without a speck of social life outside of my family, and moved in a city, miles away from my parents, where I never lived before, which I didn't knew, and I really desired some sort of social contact with people. And it pains me to think that my original plan wasn't to live in a tiny house. It kind of came into my path, but my original plan was just to move in a foreign city here in the Netherlands, but a foreign city to me, in a flat probably, and just thinking about it and just realizing what I've learned about myself is that would have been an absolute disaster. I would have never left my house, and I don't think it would have been ending well. It would definitely be dangerous for my mental health. But, I ended up here with lots of lovely people. And talking about my mental health, this house has come with many, many, many challenges. I already told you about the social, but we also have some more to do with the physicalness of the house. Although my house is not off-grid, it also doesn't come with standard facilities. Electricity is still shutting down sometimes, more than average. In the first couple of months, we basically went to my own personal hell. Literally, it's connected to my deepest, darkest fears, and suddenly I was in them. Basically, our sewer system got clogged every 4 weeks. Yeah, it was the first couple of months. Sorry, I was just here. I already was dealing with the social issues. But anyway, it got clogged every 4 weeks, which meant you couldn't use your bathroom. You couldn't go to the toilet, you couldn't shower, you couldn't cook, you couldn't do much. And basically I had some of the worst panic attacks I ever had here, which was horrible and exhausting. Luckily, knock on wood, that hasn't happened anymore. However, we got a new nice little problem this week. This week we have, as you maybe can see through the window, which is kind of wet, and also don't notice it, or I know it's disgusting, I need to clean it. I'm not a functional human being, okay? Anyway, so as you can see, it's cold outside. It gets now to -10 degrees Celsius, which is not very common these days anymore. It's been years since that happened. And it comes with the new problem, since all water pipes might not be far enough in the ground, and already some neighbours had some issues with freezing up water. So my anxiety is really bad, which is the reason I'm filming this, just to give myself something to do, trying to not think much about it because I might panic, and I hope it doesn't happen to me, but it's gonna last 2 weeks. Anyway, I hate it. I really do hate these kind of things. These are the things that make me wish I didn't live in a tiny house. Although, let's look at the positive sides, is that because I've been challenged in my darkest fears a lot, is that I kind of grew stronger out of it. My SD is less, which is brilliant, because I had to do the things that I thought I would never be able to do. So anyway, that's brilliant. Let's do the next one. Hello. So, I don't know how well you sleep normally when there's a storm blowing outside, but I can tell you what it's like living in a tiny house. Basically, sleep is hard to come by when those days are here, because I sleep upstairs, and that means I will feel every blow of the wind. There's a lot of swaying, and my pots, pans, cups, plates will rattle in the cupboards. So that's nice, and every time I am about to doze off in a sleep, I will be shaken up right awake. So, not good for your sleep, but it's not worst, I suppose, unless you have something to do the next day, then it's kind of a bummer. Anyway, I also wanted to tell you, I would like to show you, but I can't because it's too dark and it's just a black hole if I film it. But yeah, since I cleaned up my house in January and reorganized things, I now got like a little hidey space up here where nobody can see me from any angle out of any window, and it's I call it my breakdown spot. Anyway, I guess these are my not so wonderful points. I hope you enjoyed it and that they're useful for you. So you might now think, when I've listed all these things that are not so great about tiny houses, is why I still live here. I do love my house. I really do. I love the way I decorate it. I feel it breeds the best version of me. Unless it's very messy, then it's not the best version of me. But it still breeds me, because I am a very messy person. Yeah, I do love my home. I don't see this as my forever home, but it's my first home, so I don't think I'm supposed to think about this as my forever home. Although I do have a very strong connection with it, and I kind of don't ever want to sell it, so I might just have this in the backyard of my next home. Who knows? It's quite an expensive shed, but I don't know. So yeah, hopefully next video is a sewing video. I assume it is, but you know, seeing the current weather situation, I'm not certain when my fabric will arrive.